One assumption I think we all frequently make is that people share a common perceptual experience of the world. We may differ in our attitudes, motivations, or beliefs, but when we see the color red or someone's face, or when we hear a piece of music, we assume that we're all experiencing roughly the same thing. As a cognitive neuropsychologist, however, I know this simple assumption to be false. Cognitive neuropsychologists study how differences in brain function, either because of some developmental difference or because of some acquired brain damage, lead to differences in cognitive function. The results of this research have demonstrated a number of startling ways that people's minds can differ. My own work primarily focuses on individuals who suffer language impairments after having a stroke. Aphasia, difficulties producing spoken language, agraphia, difficulties in writing, and alexia, difficulties in reading. But there are a whole range of highly selective ways that people's perceptual and cognitive processing can differ. Dyscalculia, difficulties in conceptualizing numbers. Prosopagnosia, difficulties perceiving or remembering phases. Amusia, difficulties in processing pitch, rhythm, or tone. The observation of these different syndromes demonstrates a vast heterogeneity of the human experience. People experience the world in vastly different ways. But the heterogeneity of the human conceptual and perceptual experience goes well beyond this handful of clinical syndromes. The labels of these syndromes, aphasia, alexia, agraphia, prosopagnosia, dyscalculia, amusia, are just descriptions of symptoms dressed up fancily with sciencey jargon and Greek roots. These categories themselves are heterogeneous. Here's an example. Recently, I have been studying a number of individuals with alexia, a reading deficit following brain damage, without other types of visual impairments and an intact ability to process what words mean in other ways. Despite focusing on what seems like a highly selective deficit, my colleagues and I have yet to find two people whose reading problems manifest themselves in exactly the same way. We have tested a woman who sees letters in a word that actually appeared in the previous word, such that she'll read dog as dot, having just read the word cat. We've tested I am currently testing a man who can see letters but no longer knows what they refer to, such that he can copy both upper and lowercase a's just fine, but he can't tell you that they're examples of the same letter. My colleague has been working with a 13-year-old girl who has a selective visual impairment such that letters and numbers, and only letters and numbers, appear to her as blurry, distorted messes. And I worked with a man who could see all the letters in the word, understand their meaning, but could not process their order, such that he would read stripe as sprite, or point to a picture of a bunch of pirates when shown the word parties. All of these individuals would be given the same clinical label, alexia, yet they clearly each suffer from a different cognitive impairment. Indeed, it seems like each individual we test is as unique as a snowflake, with no two minds working exactly the same way. This type of heterogeneity is hard to think about, both for the individuals who suffer these deficits and for the scientific community that tries to understand what they mean. For our research participants, their failure to understand their own uniqueness is clearest when they compare themselves to others labeled with the same clinical syndrome. There are many impressive stories of people with aphasia who make full recovery after months or years of treatment. These individuals can be inspiring, but I also see the frustration they can cause. What's wrong with me, our research participants will ask. I've been aphasic for 10 years, and that person recovered in just 3. Am I being lazy? Am I not trying hard enough? But of course, it's not laziness, but rather a consequence of the fact that people can be given the same clinical label while suffering from radically different cognitive impairments. Consider the individuals with alexia we've been testing in the lab. Why should the same treatment work for the participant who sees each letter as a blur and the one who can see the letter shapes but can't remember what they refer to? The scientific community also has a problem with this type of heterogeneity. One purpose of science is to contribute generalizable knowledge. The conclusions of our studies should extend beyond the single experiment. Some general result like Rice scientist cracks the orthographic code. Or even some result about some broad syndrome like Rice scientist discovers the cause of dyslexia would probably get me on the university homepage. But the specific study of the one unique individual, Rice scientist understands why old man can't read, sounds like it would fit better in The Onion. Yet if everybody we test is a unique snowflake, how can we generalize the results of our studies? And if we can't generalize, how can we do science? My answer to this critique is that yes, we are all special snowflakes. Our minds are all unique. But understanding the ways that individuals differ can provide a clear window into how all of our minds work. All snowflakes may be unique, but there are clear principles that govern what a snowflake might look like. They're white, they're made of crystallized water, they have 6 arms and are symmetrical. By identifying these principles through observing hundreds of snowflakes, we can develop theories of how snowflakes form. Similarly, while no two minds are alike, we should be developing theories that can explain both the ways in which mental processes are the same across people and the ways that people can differ. By embracing this heterogeneity of perceptual and conceptual experience, we can reach a deeper understanding of how the mind works.